Are you okay with being bored? In my life personally, I have struggled with the concept of being okay with being bored. And I think that it really comes from number one, I'm just a very active individual. I like to be doing things, I like to be busy, I like to have things that I'm motivated to achieve and goals, and I like that sort of thing. I like to have something that I'm moving towards. And as humans, I think that that's a pretty common thing, is that we like to be working towards something. As a unit, we just get really tired, we get really bored, we get really, I guess, stagnant when we have nothing that we're going towards, right? Our life tends to lose meaning when we don't have a goal that we're going after. In my life, though, this dissatisfaction with being bored or life being slow or, I'm not doing some big, new, exciting thing, this dissatisfaction with that state of living has led to me chasing things and pursuing goals and doing these massive pursuits and chasing these massive pursuits that I don't even want, all for the sake of not being bored. I had for the longest time this fear of getting a regular job and just working my job and not having some major play or some big splash or some massive plan or some way to get my name in lights. I was afraid of just settling. I was afraid of just being content with a quiet little life that, I sort of like this and I don't want to do anything exciting right now. I was so against the idea of being bored, we're going to say, that it led to me pursuing things that I didn't want, that I didn't like, that weren't true to me, that weren't authentic to me. And what would happen as a result of me pursuing these things and chasing these goals that I didn't actually want, it would lead to a number of things. Number one, I would quit. I would quit because I didn't want it in the first place, obviously. Number two, I would feel like a failure because nothing happened. Right? Because either I quit or I wasn't good at something or I didn't have that fire and that inspiration behind what I was doing, and so nobody paid attention, and so I would feel like a failure ultimately. And so time and time again, I would make these claims and pursue these goals that would just end in me being really upset with myself and disappointed in myself because I didn't achieve the goal. And I was stuck. I was constantly stuck because I couldn't stay focused on one thing. And I think that that is really what this fear of being bored boils down to. And this dissatisfaction with, we're going to say, the boring way of life or a settled life or a content life. We're dissatisfied with it because we're not doing something new, or things start moving moving on their own and grooving on their own, and it doesn't require a ton of effort and investment from you anymore. I think about, you get a job and you're really good at your job and you nail down your tasks, and you know what? Now it's really easy to go to work, and you just go to work and, you have work to do for most of the day. The rest of the day, you're sort of, messing around, doing whatever, and then you go home. And overall, you're not unhappy. You're not, discontent with your job, but you're unsatisfied because you feel like, but my life isn't exciting. In my case, personally, I was obsessed with being big. And I've talked about that in a previous video where I was so obsessed with being big that I would really shut down a lot of different opportunities for myself. And a lot of times I would shut down jobs that I really liked or things, activities, whatever it was. I would shut them down because it wasn't me doing some big exciting thing, becoming a big name, and making a splash as me. I was afraid that if I led a boring life, if I just got some whatever job, if I just got a job that, I like it, I'm good at it, and I make good money, if I just did that, then I wouldn't have the fame. I wouldn't have the recognition. I wouldn't have my name in lights. Nobody would know who I was. I believed that meant that I was boring. I believed that meant that I didn't achieve anything in my life. And I believed that I would be discontent with that I would be unhappy living my life that way. And I think that this all comes from, number one, I think that social media has really is at the core of a lot of this dissatisfaction. And I think that is because we see people that live very flashy lives. Not just that their job is on social media, because I think that you can live a quote-unquote boring lifestyle while having a job on social media. But I think that a lot of, I'm going to call them the OG influencers and content creators out there, what you see is that their lives are bright, they're vibrant, they're sparkly, they're glamorous, they're flashy, they're big, right? Everything they do is over the top. And they share it on social media, and everything they do seems so exciting and thrilling, and even the most mundane tasks seem to have some essence of flair to them. And we look at that and we think, well, I need to live that kind of life. I need to live in that kind of house. I need to have this absurd lifestyle, this absurdly big lifestyle, in order to be successful, in order to be satisfied, in order to love my job, love my life, whatever it is. That's what it has to look like. It has to be big. It has to be over the top. It has to be so absurd and so flashy and just big, bold, and beautiful. I mean, it just has to be big. It cannot be boring. We're led to believe that, and we start striving for it. I know that that's sort of what I started striving for. I was in college I went to school for accounting and finance, and believe me, I do not want to work in the field, but I think that my desire to not work in the field started from the fact that I started watching the beauty YouTube era, right? The makeup tutorials and the beauty gurus and these people whose lives, I'm not finding fault with them at all. Their life is their life and it's beautiful. But I decided that in order for me to be happy, I had to have my life look like that, right? My life had to involve me having this big house and these flashy cars and all of this makeup and all of this stuff and all of the jewelry and the glam, and that's what my life had to look like in order for me to be happy. For so many years, I lived my life in pursuit of those things, trying to find the career that was going to do that for me. I've done makeup content. I've done different kinds of content, fashion content, like any kind of content. I was just trying so hard to not have a boring life, to have the big flashy life, to have the beautiful life. At the end of the day, I would look at it and it was like, I'm unsatisfied. I'm unsatisfied in my efforts. Number one, because what I'm chasing isn't actually what I want. I've discovered that later on. And number two, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting anywhere. I would rather be doing this, but according to the lives of somebody else, according to those people's lives, what I actually want to do is boring. It's boring. And I would tell my mom, and I'd tell my dad, and I'd tell everybody that's I'm just not happy just working this job and just doing this and just doing that. I always want to be creating and innovating and all this stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that that's human nature. But I distinctly remember my mom saying, we were driving in the car and she said, Ellie, it's okay for you to be bored sometimes. It's okay for life to be boring sometimes. It's okay to just be living. It's okay to, you know what? My week this week consists of me going to work and nothing else. My week this week consists of a couple of doctor's appointments. My week this week is the most mundane, normal, human kind of week on this this side of the earth. Like, literally, I have the most boring week in the world. And that's okay. And when she said that, it was like, obviously, I knew it was okay for you to have a period of boring in your life, but it was almost like a slap in the face. That it's like, it's okay for your life to be boring. It's okay that you don't have the flash. It's okay that you're not doing something big and new in your life. It's okay that there's not this grand, big, huge upheaval in your life right now. It's okay for you to just be chugging along. It's okay for your life to be boring. And I think that the biggest fear in relation to this, my life is boring right now, or, I don't have anything big going on in my life. I think that the big fear is that you're worried that you're not going to have any impact. And you're worried that you're behind. And you're worried that, life is passing you by and people are just disappearing into the distance because you are just hanging out here living your boring life, right? You're just hanging out here, living your boring life, not making a splash, not doing anything big and grandiose. And in your mind, you're worried that that means that you are unsuccessful. It means that you're a failure. It means that people are leaving you behind. It means that, right? I mean, that's the fear. That's the fear. It's the fear of, if I can't go on these big fat vacations, then I'm behind. If I'm not living in this house, I'm behind. If I'm not in this relationship, I'm behind. If I don't have this career, I'm behind. And if I'm behind, I'm a failure. I am a failure. But let me tell you that just because your life is boring doesn't mean that your life doesn't have an impact. Sometimes I think that we have the most impact when we are living the slowest moments of our life. When we're just going along and we're happy with our slow moving days and we're just going along, living our life. Nothing big's happening, no big move, nothing major is going on. We're just existing. And when we're able to find contentness, and when we're able to be satisfied in that, we're able to radiate this sense of peace. We're able to have this sense of peace. And I think that when you are able to have peace in the boring of your life, when you are able to be at peace with the slowness of your life right now, then that radiates to other people. And you are able to put other people at ease. And I mean, I feel like that is something that the world desperately needs, is a lot of people that are a little bit more at ease, don't you think? Don't you think that the world needs a few more people that are just, they're not all riled up, they're not all excitable, they're not all worked up over this or that or the other thing, but they're just living their life. And they could care less about what people think and what people's opinions are and the tragedies of the world and all these things. That people are just living their life. They're just living their life and they're content to do so. And there's peace in that. Sure. Perhaps they want to serve certain groups of people. Perhaps they want to have an impact on certain groups of people. But I think that you are able to have more impact when you're not trying to be so loud. When you're not trying to be so big. When you're not trying to be the big deal that you think you need to be. When you're not trying so hard, you are going to have that impact and you're going to have that bigness that you want. And it's going to come naturally because people are going to gravitate you. Because when you are not so desperate about, well, I have to have this big honking life. But when you're just, doing your thing and things just sort of happen and then you go and you do them, then people just sort of gravitate to you. I have a cousin that she is one of the most, she's just the calmest person in the world. She will, it's nothing for her to say, yep, I woke up at 9 a.m. and the weather was just so nice out. And so I took my coffee and I just sat on the front porch and I was really happy there. And, I watched some cars go by and then I did some work and, and she's retired. This isn't just somebody that's, whatever. Her life is just one of those lives where she moves at a slower pace and she's not hyper worried about doing the next big thing. Now, here's a little bit of background on her. She was a major missionary in Haiti, and she's done major missions work throughout the U.S. She's a pastor. She's had so much impact, and she's done the biggest things. She's traveled the world. She's seen all of these things. She's had this major impact on so many people's lives. But she's not worried about being big. And she's not worried about, well, my life has to be exciting. And my life has to be an adventure. I can't be living a boring life. In fact, she lives a slow-moving, boring life, but she sees and she experiences the excitement and the adventure of everyday existence, right? The funny things that happen to you on your drive to work. The things that happen to you, when you're just out and about and doing your thing. The beautiful things that you experience when you're sitting outside, enjoying nature. The TV shows that you just cannot get enough of. When you are okay with living the boring life, I would have to say that your life becomes like the most interesting, the most fascinating, and the most beautiful thing in the world. But I think that the key is that you stop trying to make it that way. Stop trying to make your life exciting and start letting your life be exciting. Start allowing your life to ebb and flow and move and just walk along the path. And your life will be exciting. You will have those moments where it's like, oh my word, this is amazing. This is exciting. I'm excited. But when you're trying so hard and you're just so desperate and you're squeezing the daylights out of your life, then no, your life's not exciting at all. Sure, you might be flashy. You might get the flashy, maybe. But for the most part, your life is just going to be a life that is, it's just squeezed dry. Instead of being plump and full and juicy, your life is tired. And so I encourage you to be okay with living your boring life. And I encourage you to really start seeing your life as, something that just sort of ebbs and flows, and start seeing the joys and the excitement and the adventures that normal life has, and start enjoying them and start partaking, and stop trying so hard to make your life not boring, because life is exciting enough without you trying to make it exciting. Trust me, life is exciting enough. I encourage you to stop trying so hard and allow life to be exciting, even if it means that you accept something boring, that you accept a boring lifestyle, a slow lifestyle. Accept it and allow your life to play out. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below to stay in the loop with all of my future uploads. Thank you so much again for joining me today. I love you oh so very much. And until we meet again, So long.